Hey, Sony guys, Sony shooters. Got one of the most underrated wildlife lenses I think out there. And that's across all the different brands. And that's the Sony 500 millimeter reflex mirror lens, autofocus. So I got the Minolta. I actually got I got three of them just in case one of them breaks because they're super affordable, super lightweight. A lot of misconceptions on this layer lens. They stopped making them in 2010 under the Sony name. Stopped selling them. They were probably $800 back then. You could probably pick up the Minolta ones for 300 bucks. But let's get into the I guess the bad things first. But before we do that, if you're wondering if it shoots very well, I got a picture of a squirrel here and a picture of an evergreen there. Now this is shot. It doesn't have the bad backdrop. A lot of I guess the misconceptions, misunderstandings, and it's sharp. And we'll get into that. But before we can do that, let's get into some of the drawbacks first. So, what are some of the drawbacks to this lens? It is not stabilized. It's older tech, obviously, but with in-body stabilization from the 6500, R3, R4, these cameras, it kind of makes it comes right back into play. And that's the thing. I think people have forgotten about this lens. It lacks color and contrast to a certain extent. But again, with digital, you can add that stuff in. I have a custom setting. I apply to it. And when I shoot this lens, I move it right over. I get the color boosted up, saturation boosted up, and contrast boosted up. It lacks some of the high-end resolution. So this is about a 20 megapixel resolution image, or I should say it can resolve about 20 megapixels. Now some other systems, obviously the high-end Sony stuff can do better, but you know, you can take what you can take. I don't shoot super high resolution as much as I think I should. You know, it's like one of those things, you know, 20 megapixels is a lot of information. You need an adapter. That's the biggest drawback to this. There is a Sony adapter you can buy, and it's I think the L4AE or something like that. It's about 200 bucks. So all total, you're at about $200 here and about $250 for one of these. Comes generally, if it's new, it comes with a snazzy, or I should say, if the guy's kept good care of it, comes with a snazzy case. Here's the box. Something like this is the Minolta version. The Sony version are a little bit more expensive, but it comes with all that. And it's got some drop-in filters, that kind of stuff. But yes, it needs an adapter. Focus system. It doesn't use the latest focus system by Sony. So, you know, you're stuck with the center focus or the 2 or 3 dots in the center area, which isn't a big thing. I can recompose a lot. I don't use the latest focus system as much as I should. I'm kind of more of a shoot manual as much as possible kind of guy. Another drawback is stuck at f8. Now, people say, oh, I can't shoot at f8. Well, nowadays we're having such high ISO. This is going to bump your ISO up. That's another drawback, but digital is not digital like it used to be. So what brings this lens back into play is the fact that, you know, there's guys shooting at ISO 6400. This lens was built back in the early 2000s, where, yeah, if you're shooting ISO 400, it was a big deal. Nowadays, ISO 400 back then probably looks like worse than ISO 6400 nowadays. It's really, really come a long way, so it's kind of made the lens kind of come back into play. And yeah, I think I mentioned the f8. You're stuck at that, so you can't really play around too much with the depth of field. Although the depth of field from, you can tell the squirrel and the photo of the evergreen that I showed before the subject pops. I think people think, wow, f8, you know, that's not enough pop. I need f4. But if you look, you can get super close for macro work with this stuff to where you're pretty close to it. It's not total macro work, but you can get right next close to Tweety birds and stuff like that to get that clean backdrop. So some of the things, what are the benefits? Well, being mirror lenses, if you get a good quality mirror lens, this is the Nikkor with a speed adapter on it for micro four thirds. And these guys, if they're made right, they're super sharp. They're just as sharp as about anything else out there, believe it or not. If you're doing your part, they are sharp. Resolution's not quite there, but Yeah, it can do that. The focus system obviously is a benefit. Sony has probably the only autofocus system mirror lens, which is plain awesome, and that's what really makes me keep with Sony for a little bit on that is the fact that manual focus, but the focus is fast, it's accurate. Obviously, it's super lightweight. It probably weighs less than a 70 to 300. It's very hand holdable. The weird thing, a lot of misconceptions, or some people don't like, is the background. The bokeh is what people refer to, the donut shaped, or that. I use it as more of an artistic thing. I know some photographers that they'll shoot it against a beach. Maybe there's a model or there's a duck, and if you get little rocks in front that have some reflection, and then it's backdrop with a backdrop light, that's how you get that donut shape. You can totally avoid it. I would say 90% of my shots, maybe 95%, are what I intended on shooting. And so you can always hear a couple of geese shots that I'm in the field. That's totally by intention, just to get a little bit blurry, donut-y effect, dreamy. Some guys will shoot models on a beach with that, kind of like an 80s dreamy kind of feel, White Diamonds feel. It's all intentional. I think it's great. You'll see here a couple other photos of some yellow flowers, so you can kind of do a little bit of macro work, or you can blend that in, kind of a pastry, a painting look. And you can use that if you have a static subject. Since you're at f8, lower the ISO down, put it on a tripod, and let everything else move if you're in the forest or if you're in a flower garden or something, and everything will look very painterly, and then you got a subject that's tack sharp. So it's that kind of creativity that it allows you, which you don't get with other lenses. So you can take more risks with this lens. It's super lightweight. It's a couple $100. All the Sony gear, and this is one of the things. Sony 200, 600, 2,100 bucks probably here by the time you're done with taxes minimum. F600 F4 is unreachable at about $13,000, and they're both much heavier, way heavier. Now you're not quite getting the reach, but you can do things with the camera to get a little bit further out there with the lens. You're able to easily pack it on planes, trains, automobiles, and put it in your suitcase. If I have more expensive gear, I have a tendency to keep it with me, which isn't always the best, but it just goes without saying. I don't trust the airlines with my gear if I'm flying that way. I generally try to pack as light as I can and take it with me. But this I could probably put, maybe in my suitcase with a bunch of clothes surrounding it, hard cover. Yeah. That's about it, guys. I really think if you haven't picked up this and you're a Sony guy and you shoot wildlife, or you want to hike, you want to go on, you want to be very portable, definitely a possibility. You probably spend $500, maybe $550 on a system. If you already got the adapter for your older Minolta lenses, then yeah, then it's all that much less. But I'm going to put out another video on shooting these different adapters overall, just mirror lenses shooting overall, and some of the stuff I do. But you'll notice here I got a bunch of different photos. I'll just kind of roll through some of the things I've shot with this camera, with the Sony system. Anyway, comments, concerns, I'll answer it. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, do that, and hopefully I'll see you next week.